I think it's safe to say that the pressure is most definitely on Mauricio Pochettino. You may feel though that he can control destiny in his hands right now because we still have the FA Cup to play for. And even though we are currently 11th in the table, we are one game behind the rest of the pack. And if we beat Newcastle on Monday, we find ourselves in the top 10 spot. And if we can pick up some consecutive wins, I know I've been hoping and praying for this throughout this season. Even though I don't feel much optimism, there's still a part of me that will hope that we can see like a little bit of form and improvement before the season ends because, listen, we have some difficult games coming up. United, Arsenal, Spurs, but we also have some pretty, fingers crossed, winnable games as well. So is there the final opportunity to pick up a run of form before the season ends? I'm going to hope and pray that's the case. I mean, I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm going to go into every single game hoping that we can get something. But my head's telling me not to expect too much, to be fair with you. I have to say, though, that currently I have lost some faith in Pochettino. I don't hate the guy. And I definitely sympathise with the hardships that he's dealt with this season. I mean, before he took over, there were injuries in the team. During pre-season, he had injuries before the season. And throughout the season, it's been unfortunate, annoying injuries after injuries after injuries every single month. So naturally, it is going to make things quite hard for you to build your sense of play and identity. But equally at the same time, I felt like my main criticism of Pochettino has been that maybe he's reacted a bit too negatively to any hardship in the team. I go back to a few occasions this season. For example, when Levi Cole was playing as a left back for large parts of the season, there wasn't much of a tactical utility behind that. Yes, we had a lot more possession, but that came at the consequence of really punishing teams in the final third. Throughout the season, we've seen Pochettino trying to figure out how to use his team. It wasn't until the game versus Fulham where he decided to use a midfield three. But even with that midfield three, there was times where Enzo Fernandez was playing higher up with Conor Gallagher playing deeper, only to now see Gallagher playing higher up with Enzo Fernandez playing deeper, only to now use both these guys in a more box-to-box role, being held in the middle by Caicedo. There's been times where there have been players that Poch could turn towards using in the team. Players like Ian Maatsen, even players like Matos, where there were times maybe you have to use an academy guy just to allow some freshness in your first team players. And I think there have been times where Pochettino's game management in game hasn't been particularly helpful, and I think the recent game against Brentford where, we came out in the second half clearly tired, clearly hit by fatigue, and I think Pochettino reacted way too late before making the right changes in that game to get us back into it. We got dominated for 20 minutes, and we could have avoided that if those legs came on at least like 15 minutes earlier. So yes, I sympathise with the hand he's been dealt with this season. A friend once told me, and I keep saying this, you can still control your controllables, and I think there were still solutions there in which Pochettino could have found the right decisions to at least just help the development of an identity in this team, because I think that's been my major criticism. I don't really care about the results that much, knowing the fact that yes, things are going against us. But I think the thing I find quite hard to accept is that we aren't seeing any key development in ideas in terms of how we play, what we do, and what type of team we are. And as I said, I think too much time was wasted reacting negatively to decisions going against us. But, the season's not over yet, and we need to build confidence because there is the FA Cup to still play for. So today, my friends, I present you guys the preview for our game against Newcastle. Hit that like button if you guys feel optimistic this week. Share your thoughts and opinions. Do you still back Pochettino, or have you lost faith in him? But before we continue on, today's video was brought to you by Parimatch UK. How would you like the chance to win a £50 free bet? Well, this season, Parimatch UK have launched their new, completely free-to-play football prediction game called Hat-Trick Hunt. Every week, you get the opportunity to predict 3 scores from the Premier League, with 3 rewards going for each correct prediction that you get correct. If you can get all 3 scoreline predictions correct, my friends, you get a £50 free bet. It really is that simple. So as you guys can see on the screen beside me, these are my 3 scoreline predictions. So I think Arsenal will beat Brentford 3-1. I think Brentford will feel quite unlucky. I think the recent fixtures have been really against them. They're playing against all the top 10 teams in like consecutive order. I think Spurs, Aston Villa, I think that will be a 2-2 draw. And for the big game this weekend, Liverpool versus Man City, I think City might just about edge it against Liverpool, and they might score a last-minute late goal. So my friends, these are my predictions. Do you agree with me? Let me know. And if you guys want to get involved yourself, really is that simple. Click on the link below. Of course, you must be 18 plus or over to take part, and all full terms and conditions apply. So thank you to Parimatch UK for sponsoring today's preview and getting back into the video. Now let's start with team news, and the injury list keeps growing and growing and growing. We had some new names on the list. Ben Chilwell has yet again broken down again. We've got no concrete information behind what this injury is, but it has been alluded to that this is another knee injury. I do feel for Ben. I think it's been very hard for him to really find consistent form, because when Ben is back on form, I think he's one of the best left backs or wing backs in the league. But recently, most of his career has been around building himself back to form, and I think he does get criticised a lot during these periods where he's still trying to find himself in terms of his body and how he's playing in the team. So, you know, he's out the team, so I guess this presents an opportunity now for Cucurella. We now add Conor Gallagher to the injury list for the first time, but he's not injured, he just has illness, and he'll need probably another week to fully recover. Poch said that over the past 3-4 days, Gallagher has been hit severely by illness, and he mentioned that at this level, when you have an illness like this, you're weaker. You even lose some weight, so he'll need some time to get back to full speeds. And finally, Levi Colwill is back in rehab with yet again another injury, and outside of that, it's the same old story for everyone else. So right now, it's not looking great in terms of the options Poch can turn towards, and it does seem like this is probably the only time right now where he'll be forced to have to turn towards using youth players, because we have to think about resting the available players that we have left in the squad. So that's the team news out the way. I'm going to go through some key points from the press conference, and of course, with the pressure now being on Pochettino, he's had to respond to the backlash from the fans. And as Poch says, listen, he can understand the situation, but he isn't going to use that to necessarily affect him and what he has to do alongside the team too. But he did mention the fact that, listen, if I was a fan in the stands and I was watching our performances, I'd be feeling the same way. So at least Poch doesn't dismiss the criticisms that he faces. I think he accepts that, which he says every single week, but he still tries to bring some positivity behind what we're doing. To move on, of course, naturally, Pochettino had to weigh in on all the injuries he's dealing with right now. And as he said, it's one of the most unluckiest periods in his whole career when it comes to dealing with a squad so injury like rattled or laddled right now. I fully understand. I agree. I gave my thoughts at the start of this video, but you can't take away the fact as well too on the other side that if he could consistently rely upon guys like your Nkunku's, maybe like more of a settled defense at the time, you know, more reliable fullbacks in particular, you know, when you're missing out on Reece James, for example, that's a big player that you can't actually rely upon, you know, that's going to weaken the team. And in my opinion, I think this is all a consequence of, you know, what we've seen over the past few seasons with like these crammed fixture list seasons in preparation for the World Cup, COVID as well too, that coming at the wrong time, really killing a lot of fitness and, you know, ruining the shape of teams as well too. And since then, you're trying to get back to some kind of normalcy in the game. But I just think that because there hasn't been enough of a resting period for most players, especially with pre-seasons getting shorter and shorter, you know, I do think that this season in particular, us alongside many clubs in Europe are paying the consequences of, you know, all this risk that was taken a few seasons back. And now you think to yourself, this summer there is going to be the Euros that's coming up, and pre-season time will get even shorter. So it's not looking great in terms of the long-term fitness and health of players in a modern day game right now. And for the final key thing from the press conference, naturally, Poch had to talk about using youth now, because as he mentioned, currently there are 9 kids from the academy training with the first team. He needs that for numbers to make sure that training sessions are still performed at a good level. And he actually praised the academy. I mean, recently we've seen like 16-year-old Ollie Harrison on the bench. Tyreek George, who's having a great season for the academy, you know, he's actually taking part in first team training. Fingers crossed, could he be given an opportunity? It would be exciting to see. But Poch praised the academy, praised the talents we have. I mentioned the fact that this could be a moment where he might have to start giving out minutes to some of these guys. And I think he should probably take inspiration from Klopp and actually do this now, because it's not even about using young players because they're talented and they're young or whatever, but it's mainly about you need to now rest the available players that you have at your disposal, because if Enzo now breaks down or Caicedo breaks down, that kills a lot of things that can happen this season, right? And I do think that, this is where you have to manage the risks and make those brave calls and decisions. So they're the key points from the press conference. Let's now discuss the predicted lineups. Now, I'm going to go for two lineups because I see things going two ways naturally. For my first lineup, I'm going for a 4-3-3. As you guys can see, Nico up front, on the right, Palmer, Sterling on the left-hand side of midfield. It would be Caicedo, Enzo, and Caicedo. And in defense, Cucurella, Trevor Chalobah, Disasi, Gusto, and Petrovic in goal. Now, for this first lineup, the reason why I've gone for a 4-3-3 is that I believe that you have to match Newcastle in midfield. Do I think that Enzo and Caicedo are maybe at that level right now in terms of fatigue and everything where they can single-handedly run that midfield? I'm not too sure, to be fair with you. And I do think that with Caicedo returning back to the team, he was basically playing that Conor Gallagher role during pre-season. So, his energy to play box to box, the aerial prowess, he can at least, prowess is a strong word, but at least he gives us height in midfield. He gives us legs, and I think this could be a great opportunity for him to get some minutes in the team now and show what he's about. With all these injuries coming in right now, listen, if you're a young guy or anyone or a squad player, this is your moment you've been waiting for. So you still have to give it your very best regardless of what's happening in terms of injuries. Up front, if it's a 4-3-3, it has to be Nico, Sterling on the left, and Palmer on the right. Palmer for creativity, and Sterling, it's a weird one with Sterling because, with Mudryk, I still feel like I'm not seeing enough from him at times. And it's the same thing for Raheem Sterling, right? But I only go for Sterling purely based on the fact that, he's more likely to take his opportunity. He scored a great goal against Man City, and that's the type of goal that he's more likely to score compared to a Mudryk, in my opinion. And defense, the reason why I've gone for Chalobah and Disasi is that I want to continue using, a high line. We need pace in the back line. And I just think that with Silva being out the team, at least in terms of the team shape, there's been little improvements on that side, right? And I think if they're supported by Cucurella and Gusto, either sides, that could be a competitive team we can use against Newcastle. And for the second lineup, this is the offensive attacking lineup where you're looking to risk it all in that sense. It is a 4-2-3-1 up front. It is Nicholas Jackson. In behind him, I've gone for Mudryk, which also surprises me saying that. Outside, Palmer on the right, Sterling on the left-hand side naturally. And in midfield, of course, Enzo, Caicedo, and defense of Cucurella. Again, Disasi, Chalobah, and Gusto and Petrovic in goal. Now, the reason why I've gone for a 4-2-3-1, in my head, if we use a team like this, it means that you want the game to be end-to-end. You want the game to be open, and you're hoping that you can maybe have those individual moments of quality that you can take advantage of. And if you have all these defensive attacking players on the field, you're hoping that you're more likely to boost your odds of creating these types of moments with these guys on the field, right? If that was the case, I think that Enzo would have to play a lot deeper. And I think he'd have to really be very tactically strong alongside Caicedo. But then we could have some very big, dangerous moments in the transition with the pace of Sterling, Mudryk and Nico being facilitated by the creativity of Palmer in behind, with the attack also being supported by Malo Gusto. It would basically be like a front four in that sense of Gusto making the overlaps, the front three, Palmer staying a bit deeper, and maybe Cucurella playing like the Levi Colwill role at the start of the season, where it's not really about Cucurella pushing into the final third. It's more about him creating that makeshift back three. Because Poch may feel like, listen, if I'm going to push Gusto forward, I need it to be 3 at the back. I need 2 in midfield. I need to have that strong base of 5 if I'm going to have a team consisting of so many offensive players in one lineup, right? So the first lineup kind of continues what we've seen already. The second lineup is a different one, but it's about attacking the opposition, going toe-to-toe against them. It could be quite an exciting game. We saw moments like this against Brentford last week, and maybe with, more attacking players on the field, could we produce and take advantage of these moments? So my friends, they're my lineups out the way. They are my thoughts and my opinions. Share yours in the comment section below. What's your score prediction? And of course, who do you think will get the goals as well? So my friends, on that note, I am the EFC. This is Blue Lines TV. I'll see you guys later for some more videos. Cool.